My husband and I had been researching it 2 years prior, but I was scared. Everything that you learn from kindergarten till now, the stoner stereotype, I guess, the stigma around it, I was scared. I felt like a criminal.
It's time to consider cannabis. I'm your host, Curtis, and in this week's episode, we're going to sit down with Tonya Sanders. Before Tonya became ill, she was a nurse. And if you don't know anything about nurses, they are remarkable people. Caring for the needs of others, helping them when they're at their weakest, and not looking for any recognition while they do it. Arguably some of the best people on earth. One of the hardest questions I ever had to face in ministry was, why do bad things happen to good people? Of course, as a Christian, I believe it's because of the fall. When Adam and Eve in the garden decided to tell God that their way was better than his, and now we all live in the consequences of that choice. Sickness, death, decay are all part of the consequences. But what if God actually knew that Adam and Eve were going to make that choice for us? What if God really did know that the fall was coming before we did? If God did know that the fall was going to come, then he would have known what was coming with the fall. He would have known of the sicknesses that we would endure. And what if God really was a loving God, that he would take this knowledge that he had of our impending fall and prepare for us some medicine? Now, I know this may be hard for some of my more conservative brothers and sisters in Christ to accept, but I just ask you to consider the possibility with an open mind as we sit down with Tonya Sanders. So you got a chance to listen to my introductory episode.
Yes,
do you have any questions or anything that you want to ask before?
You need to get your story out there for everyone because you kept saying that you are a Christian man. A lot of people think that Christian men are against it, you know what I mean, for some reason. And, I don't know, a lot of people just need to hear that.
Yeah.
Maybe it would help them, understand more.
Definitely. I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about what the Bible says about cannabis, which is virtually nothing. There's a verse in the Old Testament that, according to translations other than Septuagint, will translate one of the ingredients to a holy anointing oil as a cannabis. But for some reason, they didn't want to translate that over into the Septuagint version. So that's interesting. Not really sure if there was politics behind that, but yeah, it does.
Makes you think.
It does make you think. But I mean, that's one of the reasons I wanted to start the podcast, is because my story is mine, and it's good. It has some value to it for sure. But there's so many other stories out there that there's people going through the pain of their condition and not even thinking about cannabis as a possibility. For you, example, you have lupus, right? I never would have thought cannabis and lupus, of course, that just never would have come to my mind. So I think that there's a lot of people out there that have good stories that need to be shared, people to be able to hear it, relate to it, and just consider it. Just consider the idea of treating your sickness, your illness with something natural.
Yeah, because no one's going to talk to you about it. No doctor is going to say, hey, why don't you try this plant that's going to make you feel great? It's going to help your diseases. And I'm not going to need to see you that much. There's no doctor that, unless they really care about their patients, which there's some that I'm meeting through all of this that really do care and are willing to talk and go have their practice focus on this, and actually care. I've saw hundreds of doctors over the years, over 8 years time, hundreds, and not only one mentioned it, and it was only for 2 seconds. And that was it.
That's crazy. It blows my mind. Like when I was younger and using cannabis, like I had heard people talk about, oh, it's good for this, it's good for that, but it was all just rumors. If I mentioned that to someone who didn't use cannabis, they'd be like, those are all lies. You don't know what you're talking about. This is just propaganda to make you feel good about what you're doing. And it's not.
No. I've taken everything from a baby aspirin to the highest pain medication that you can take. And nothing works like this medicine. Nothing. None of that synthetic crap they gave me over 8 years works like this does. It actually helps. Yes, medications are needed in some situations, but for somebody who has a chronic disease or pain or anxiety, depression, why not try this first? Why does it have to be a last resort, a last option for so many? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. This is my last option. Every medication that they gave me, that I've tried, it all failed. I had nothing left. They sent me home to die again. And I was like, rip, and started this journey. I didn't know where I was going to go when I ripped up those prescriptions,
So when did you first begin your relationship with cannabis?
It started 2 years ago. I had walked into pain management and they had looked at me and told me that they were going to start the weaning off process. Even though I was dying right in front of them, it didn't matter. The opioid crisis that's going on here in Ohio is bad, and it wasn't helping me anyway. So I went to the car, I ripped up all my prescriptions. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I started withdrawing really bad that same day because my fentanyl patch was to be changed. So a couple hours later a couple hours is all it takes to start withdrawing. So I started into the withdrawing, suicidal, seizures. My skin was crawling. I couldn't wear clothes. Everything that you see a heroin addict going through, that's what I was going through, withdrawing. Because I was on Dilaudid also around the clock for years, every 3 hours. Plus I was taking antipsychotics, anti-anxiety, antidepressant medicine. I am injections into my legs, you name it. But I stopped everything cold turkey that day except for 2 medications. I started withdrawing. 3 days in, I couldn't do it anymore. My husband and I had looked into treatment facilities, but there was really nothing around here that was going to be able to help me, I thought. And I wasn't going to take another pill to help,
right,
to wean off all this stuff. It just wasn't happening. So I looked at him and, he was crying. I was crying. I was so suicidal. I just wanted it to end. And I'm like, please call my friend. My husband and I had been researching it 2 years prior, but I was scared. Everything that you learn from kindergarten till now, the stoner stereotype, I guess, the stigma around it, I was scared. I felt like a criminal, if I was going to try it. But anyway. So he called my friend and they came right up. He got it ready. Like I said, I had never tried it in high school. I had never done anything like this. And it didn't matter that I was taking all that high potent medication. I was so scared. So we walked out to my garage. I took a couple puffs. And by the time I walked from my garage back to my porch, everything that I had been experiencing the last 10 years, the last 4 days through this withdrawal was gone. I felt like I could breathe again. I was holding my breath for 8 years, reaching, grasping every second for somebody just to help me. And this did it.
That's awesome.
This did it. Yeah. Took it all away.
You're one of the first people I've interviewed who haven't used cannabis in their youth. So that's really cool. It's interesting that you were talking about the stigma of it. And honestly, that's something that I had to really wrestle with myself when I was thinking about possibly putting cannabis in as a replacement for my other treatments, is because I did use it in my youth, but I remember me using it and abusing it. And I didn't like who I was.
But it's different.
It is different. Like, I'm not that person anymore. And the experience, what I'm trying to get out of it is different. trying to engage my life, trying to engage tasks that need to get done, trying to really engage my kids and sit with them, play Legos with them.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, sitting at a table, playing Legos, that'll get my back screaming.
Oh, I bet. But that's what it lets us do, even though we're sick or even though we're in excruciating pain, nausea, I still have that stuff. But cannabis, it lets me live a little bit. It lets me enjoy life just for a little bit until it starts wearing off again. It's the only thing that's saving my life. It's the only thing that's giving me my life back.
Have you seen the Netflix show Disjointed?
I watched a couple episodes.
You have seen it?
Yes, I have seen it.
I just want to ask you the stereotypes in that show, and especially those first couple episodes. I just feel like they hurt cannabis as treatment more than help it.
Yeah, I feel the same way, because there's people out here that, like myself, and I can only speak for myself. It's the only thing, and if I know I keep saying that, but it's the only thing that lets me be normal. It lets me live. It lets my health be okay. It's put me in remission after 8 years of never being in remission, not one time.
Yeah.
And then to go from all of that to remission because of a plant, it's amazing. I mean, I depend on it. I depend on this plant with everything.
So people like you and me, what do you think we can do to help push back against that stigma of dank and dabby?
Just keep educating everyone that we come in contact with. Someone's going to relate with our story. Someone out there is going to relate. They're going to have a family member. They're going to have a loved one, a friend, someone that our story can impact their life greatly. And with us doing that I think we're doing our job. I never got into this for anything besides helping everybody. I suffered. I used to ask, why me? I'm a nurse. I gave to my community. I would give. Why was I chosen to get this disease? Why was I chosen? I keep asking. I know you're not supposed to ask, but I would always ask. And then when I came through it, 2 years ago, and I was like, this is why. This is why I had to suffer so other people don't have to. I can show them before they have to go through all that,
Yeah.
That's my whole main goal is to maybe click in somebody's mind when they're sitting in a doctor's office. You know what? I remember Tonya talking about this. They're going to try to, start off at the normal dose. They're going to keep increasing. And then when that stops working, they're going to add something else. Let me ask some questions. Let me see why I'm taking this medicine. Let me see, is it going to interact with another medication that these doctors are prescribing? It makes people think, I guess. It makes them question their healthcare in all aspects, I guess.
Yeah.
And they have to think about the long run,
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to always question why doctors are giving you what pills and how long you're supposed to be on them. What are the side effects? Like it's always good to approach your health plan with an inquisitive mind.
With me being a nurse, I knew all the stuff they were giving me. I understood it. I would study it. I believe that they were giving it because they had my best interest,
Right.
But I wasn't thinking of the long-term things that I have to deal with now. Even though that my lupus is in remission, I'm having complications because of the chemo I had to take years ago. Would I have had to take this chemo, and would I have had to go through all these surgeries, meningitis, all these pain pumps in my spine that failed twice? Would I had to go through all that if somebody would have just offered me this plant up front?
I mean, I don't know. I think most people in general are trying to do the best they can with what they have to work with. And I don't think our doctors are any different. And there's a real misfortune at hand in the fact that what they have to work with is pharmaceutical drugs that have crazy side effects.
But they could also, on the other hand,
No, go ahead. Push back.
On the other hand, these doctors, they see all this research, not research, I guess. They see all this proof. They see all these testimonies. They see all these stories. If they really honestly care about their patients, they would look into this. They would educate themselves. They would go take the 2-hour training. They would go get books at the library. Everything's online. Google everything. If they really care, and if they see that their patients' lives are not being improved with what they're doing and what they're able to give in their doctor's office, then they should go out on their own, educate, and really see what it can do for their patients.
I think it's really important for you to feel like your primary care physician cares about you and cares about your well-being. Like, absolutely. If you're seeing someone that doesn't, I really hope you can find a new doctor. It always helps when you can feel like the people you're working with in the healthcare profession do actually care about you. So absolutely, find somebody who does care.
And that's why, it would be hard for me going through this, being a patient on that side of it, and being in the healthcare profession. It would be hard for me to go back into a traditional nursing role, which I never can because of my lupus or whatever. But if I had to go back into a traditional nursing role, I don't think I could, because, I was educated in nursing school to do this, this, and this.
Right.
Not go off the beaten path like I'm choosing, so to say, I guess. Take the healthy road. I couldn't offer those kind of things that I know in my brain to patients in the hospital. I couldn't say, what have you ever tried cannabis? Have you ever tried it? Have you ever thought about it? I couldn't actually probably say that to them.
No, you couldn't. And that's kind of what I meant, like that they're doing the best they can with what they have to work with, because the risks that they put their career in, just because of the Schedule 1 status, I don't blame them for not doing it. They should care about me, but they should also look after themselves. Are you involved with any other activism in the movement?
I'm trying. I just came out with my story. I had done a news interview back in June. I think it came out in July. So that's when I came out of the closet, so to say.
Right.
So I've wanted to ever since I've quit my medicine, but I just, like I said, I was so scared. I was so afraid to be judged. Around here where I live, it's just, farming communities and things, and people are so judgmental. And I have 2 daughters, and I didn't want them to get picked on because of the choices that I've made, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone knows everybody's business around here. So, but everybody's been supportive. I have to say that I've had no bad backlash or any negative anything, directed towards me. Also, I've done a couple radio shows. I did a radio show with a Green Nurse group. They had me on as a guest. I've done some guest blogs on the weed blog, the Sacred Plant. They sent out an email the other day, and it was my story from the Sacred Plant, which was a honor for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was their actual main email, their story. So it was awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you've only been using cannabis for the last 2 years?
Yeah, almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. What has that treatment journey looked like?
Okay, so in Ohio, as you know, I wanted to do everything the legal way because I was so scared whenever I stopped all these medicines.
Okay.
So I went to a clinic in Cleveland, and I took all my medical records. I went and sat down with the doctor. They gave me my prescription, my affirmative defense. They gave me my card, everything. So I went to Michigan, and that was an experience by itself because I didn't know what I was doing. And it was just a scary experience. You know what I mean? Because I felt like a criminal. I was crossing when I really shouldn't have felt. I shouldn't feel like that to go get a life-saving medicine, but this is how I felt,
Yeah.
So I went to Michigan. I got vapes, and I got edibles, and I got tinctures, and I got the whole thing so I could try, I wanted to be able to, based on the day I was having, medicate accordingly, I guess.
Yeah.
With different options, because different forms medicate you differently. So I wanted to have that option. So I brought all that stuff back, and here to find out, I do some more research and things like that. Well, here, that card and everything that I got, it got me into the dispensaries up there, but it didn't give me any protection coming back.
Right.
If I would have got caught, even though I followed all the order, they had this list of, the rules and, how I have to keep it separate in my trunk and keep the keys separate in a safe and all that. I did everything to the T. I followed everything. But then, so I never went back and renewed my card because they wanted me to renew my card every 3 months. So I never went back and did that. But I've been getting it from somebody that goes to Michigan right now. That's the only way I can get my, there's nothing here.
Right.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Whatever was us patients supposed to do. Who are we supposed to hold accountable for all these deaths and the suffering, that people are going to do because the program was supposed to be up and running by the 8th? Do you, do you happen to follow Mike Wise?
I'm not sure who that is. No.
He's a huge activist.
Really?
And I had reached out to him, and he works alongside of Rick Simpson. And I reached out to him and shared my story, and he actually published it on his website, The Mike Wise Show. And him and I have been talking back and forth for, my 3 months or so. And he's actually going to have me on a live stream with him. And so that's a big thing that's coming up with, I forgot to tell you about that. And that's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So that's exciting. I forgot about that.
Tell me more about your first experience. You touched on it a little bit and just how it just took away the symptoms and all this withdrawal. Did you have any other memories from that time or that experience? Did you find yourself, I don't know, in a better mood, or like, what was that journey like?
The day after I started withdrawing, the day after I took that fentanyl patch off, I had saw on, like I said, we had been researching it. So I saw somebody local was selling CBD oil. And so I got in touch with her. I didn't know research on the CBD oil. I was just reaching for anything that was going to help me, anything natural that I could get. So he went and got it. He brought it home. I was taking droppers because I knew it couldn't hurt me, but I was just trying to find something to help, anything. So droppers full. And I did that. And like I said, it was good. I could feel after 15 minutes, I kind of like a relaxed almost, but then that was it. It wasn't what I needed. I need the THC and the CBD, the combination,
The entourage.
Yeah. For the best, that works the best for my treatment. And, I don't get high. I don't get any of that. I get normal. I get back to my normal. The first time, like I said, I was flopping around. I couldn't sit still. I was so agitated. It took it all away. Everything. Like I hadn't slept. I hadn't slept in those 4 days at all. Not 1 ounce. Because when you're coming down off all that stuff, you can't sit still. You're all over the place, rocking back and forth. It was just oh my God, like a calm, like my brain could function, like everything just slowed down. Yeah, the time got a little bit slower, how that happens at first, you're sitting there thinking it's been an hour and here it's been 10 minutes,
Right.
But I needed that. I needed that part of it for the healing. I could actually, the first time I went in, it was actually able, like the first time in 8 years, to lay in my bed and I could actually feel, I know this is crazy, but I laid in my bed after I did it and I could feel at the top of my head, like everything like melt, like it melted, all the pains in my bones, everything, like I could feel it just melt all the way, and it went clear out of my toes. It was amazing. And I had, at that time, I still had my feeding tubes. I still had IV antibiotics at home 24/7. I've been able to get rid of everything. I have a port in my chest, which I'll always have because of the chemo that I took. It ruined my veins.
Right.
But the port's been a lifesaver, which I'll never, like I said, they'll never take that out unless I've had I think this is my 4th or 5th port.
So they might swap it out, but.
Yeah, they'll swap it out, but I'll never get rid of it. But I'm okay with that. If that's the only thing that I have right now,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your experience getting your medical marijuana recommendation. You said you went up to Cleveland. How much did you have to pay to get into there?
I think it was $300.
$300.
Mm-hmm.
Do they talk to you about a treatment plan? Did they give you recommendations on like what products to use, when to use them, or anything like that?
Nope.
No.
Nope, not at all. Nope. It was just like a 15-minute visit. Like I said, they just went over my medical records real quick, made sure that I had a qualifying condition in the state of Ohio, and that was it. They sent me on my way. They gave me a list. I think they gave me a list of dispensaries in Michigan. I think I might actually have it.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, they gave me a list of dispensaries that I could go to that this card would work for, which that should have rung a bell anyway in my mind. But I was so nervous, so scared.
Yeah.
Of this. And then they gave me a list of dispensaries, and they gave me maybe a coupon. That was it.
They gave you a coupon.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually handed you a card that you could take into the dispensary.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because that is not at all what my experience was like.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah. I mean, my doctor sat with me and really talked to me about my condition and the other treatments I'm using for my back condition, and then talked to me about the different terpenes I should be using, and recommended like using a sativa in the morning and an indica at night. And
I got nothing.
And definitely told me like, yeah, you could go to Michigan, but don't do it. I have to tell you, don't do it, because you will be committing a felony. And
oh no, they sent me there.
Wow.
And I didn't know any better.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And me being so nervous anyway, and like I think I'm doing something illegal, that everybody my whole life has preached to me that I'm doing so wrong. Everybody's preached that, and then it was horrible. It was so nerve-wracking. It shouldn't be like this.
No.
This is the best medication that I've ever taken.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, the fact that I could take 3 draws off of a vape and be able to jump on a trampoline with my kid.
Yep.
I don't know. That was it for me. I was like, okay, this is legitimate. Like, I should be able to have this kind of life and not tell my son no every time he wants to do something crazy with me, because he's a wild one, that's for sure.
Hey, that's what they're for. You should be able to make memories with your kids. You should be able to love. You should be able to just not suffer just because. And a plant, it blows my mind that, that people just don't see it,
It's my understanding that the affirmative defense that I have and that you have does not keep you from getting arrested.
Mm-mm.
The police can still make that choice to ruin your day.
Yeah.
And then the judge doesn't even have to throw it out. It's like more of a case by case deal. Like, you have to actually go before him and say, this is my situation. This is who I am. This is why I'm using it. This was the reason I got caught with it. And, plead your case to the judge, and you're still at their mercy.
That's crazy to me. That's like, I shared a story on my Facebook. I don't know, it's probably been a month or 2 ago, about a tournament that I was at. My daughter plays travel softball. And before, these 2 years, I was never able to go. I was either in the hospital or I stayed at home. Even though my husband coached, I would never go. Anyway, we were at a softball tournament, and I had waited all day. It was a huge tournament in Columbus, nationals or something like that. So I had waited all day. It was horrible. I was so sick. So I had to sneak away to the Porta-John, clear at the other end of these fields, just so I could take a couple puffs. And then I got mad because as I'm walking back in there from almost getting arrested because the cop went into the Porta-John I just went out of, and I'm freaking out, So I'm walking back in, and there's all these people lined up with their beer, tailgating away, having a good old time.
Mm-hmm.
These women in there have purses full of pill bottles, popping their pill bottles, popping the pills. Nobody ever says anything to them. And here's me suffering so bad. I had to drag myself clear across the park and then almost get arrested just because I needed just some kind of, I needed my medicine. It's not fair. It's not right.
That's not. You had talked a little bit about being in a small community and everyone kind of knowing everyone's business.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit more about your family's involvement and reaction to this new treatment.
My husband, like I said, he had never tried it either. So him and I almost actually got a divorce. Even though I was going through all that stuff, I just stopped my medicine. I made the change to this. He didn't understand it. He was scared. I mean, we went through a really hard time there, 2 years ago. I mean, we were almost in divorce court over this, but I'm like, it's the only thing that is helping me, And now that he's seen me for the last 2 years, he'll argue with anybody it's a miracle. It's a miracle. I mean, he'll argue anybody. My mom, my dad, they've all been supported. I've waited a little bit to tell them, but I did tell them. My grandpa, who is 89, he's the one that actually took me to my appointment in Cleveland to get my card. So he's been very supportive. All my doctors are aware. I'm down to only 2 doctors. I go to a cardiologist and a rheumatologist, and that's it. No specialists really anymore, anything like that. So, but everybody knows. Everybody's good now. Like, I have lung disease, and I have, it's hard for me I don't want to smoke it. I would rather vape. And I would rather do like a FICO oil, something along that lines, because the smoking is going to hurt my lungs, over the long run. Mm-hmm. But I need different ways. But since there's nothing else here, and it's going to be so expensive, that's a hard thing for patients too. When you've been so sick and you've been off work, how are these people going to afford their prices? How are these people going to afford these dispensary prices?
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff worries me. And I don't know.
That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And hopefully they will make an amendment to this law that allows patients to grow their own medication.
I know.
I mean, it doesn't even honestly make sense that they aren't allowing at least some number, even a low number of plants, so that people who, I'm not going to grow it because I can't grow anything. I kill any plant you put near me. It's really unfortunate for that plant. So that's not going to be me, but some people, I think they should be allowed to, even if you aren't going to allow them to grow enough to completely not have to buy anything, because I know the state is very motivated by money in this. So they're going to want some money from everybody, but there's some low income people that really should be allowed to grow.
Yeah, there has to be something, because they're, even if it's not, even if it's only like 3 plants, 3, if you have your affirmative defense and your doctors recommended it, and even if there's a couple more steps that you have to go through to qualify, or if you have to pay like a little, like some tax or something every year on your plants that you grow or something like that. I don't know how all that would work, but they should be able to do something, because I need the oils, and I could use 2 plants that I've grown in my basement, to make those oils, just to medicate myself. I don't know. I don't know how all this will work.
Yeah, I've actually seriously considered moving, just getting away from it. I just saw another article saying that the Board of Pharmacy is saying that all CBD is illegal.
Yeah.
And this is so dumb. I am not even allowed to possess it. Come on.
No, but Epidolax, that's used for medication-resistant epilepsy. Mm-hmm. They just scheduled it yesterday to, I think, a schedule 4 or 5, and that's just isolated CBD.
Yeah.
And they added their stuff to it to make their synthetic product. And it's not what they need really. They need the whole plant. But, and it's $32,500 a year for that.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's greed.
It is greed. That's what it's about. That's what it'll always be about.
Yeah.
It's not about us, the people. It's never been about that. It never will be.
Not under this current government structure. we are a capitalist society. And as long as we remain completely a capitalist society, it will always be about the money and never about the people who actually need something to better their life. I mean, the way it is today, unless you're super rich, as soon as you get too old and you have to get into some sort of assisted living, you basically sign away everything.
Yep.
And
Yep.
say,
Your
okay,
house,
I give
everything.
you all of my assets so that you will help me die. It shouldn't be like that.
No, it shouldn't be like that.
Is there anything that you'd like our listeners to remember, or one thing that you'd like to tell them before we wrap up?
One thing I always say is you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. I woke up one day with jaw pain, and for the next 8 years I suffered. So you never know. So if you don't need it now, you might not need it, in the near future, but you don't know what your family's going to need in the future. You don't know what your loved ones, your friends, if this could actually save their life. So just keep your mind open, and that's it.
Keep an open mind. Not really sure why that's so hard for us to do. We really don't like to have our beliefs challenged. We don't like it when our worldview evolves. I think it's just because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to admit that we're wrong. It's uncomfortable to admit that our teachers gave us misinformation. But with the overwhelming evidence of the health benefits of cannabis, it's time to think again. I'm so grateful for the opportunity I had to meet Tonya, to speak with her about her journey and the struggles that she had choosing to implement cannabis. Somebody who had no experience with the plant in her youth. Someone who had all the same stigmas and preconceived ideas of what it meant if you used the plant. But she took the time, investigated, learned, and armed herself with the ability to seriously consider cannabis as a treatment option. If you're interested in pursuing cannabis as medicine, talk to your doctor. If your doctor is not comfortable writing you a letter of recommendation, a quick internet search will help you find a cannabis-friendly doctor. Keep in mind that if you choose to pursue cannabis as treatment and your primary care physician does not approve, they may drop you as a patient. But ultimately, your health and wellness is in your hands. How you treat your illness is up to you. For more information and video testimony of the medical benefits of cannabis, visit considercannabisnow.com and click videos. On the website, you can also send me a message, and I'd love to hear from you. So feel free to reach out to me there or on our Facebook page. As always, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. Join me next time, and we'll consider cannabis together.